All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Inside In Tennis Podcast. Mitch Michals here, all part of the Believe Network. A lot of great content on the network. We are on all your podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, you name it. This podcast continues on as the season does. And joining me now on location in Miami, he's a legend of the game, really, in a lot of ways. Played tennis for a long time, but now he's into broadcasting, hosting, one of the co-hosts of Second Serve, commentating on matches in Australia and around the world. Joining me from Miami, the site of the Miami Open, it's Nick Monroe. Nick, welcome back to the show. Been a long time since we caught up. You're a busy man to pin down, but thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, Mitch, been pumped to get on the show and happy to be here from Miami.
It's weird, right? Because when was it, like 5 years ago, maybe more, I'm guessing, when you kind of, first showed up at Tennis Channel and started this broadcast endeavor while you were still playing. Is that about right? Was it about 5 or 6 years ago?
Yeah, it was about 4.5 or so.
Okay.
And it was cool because it was, just doing it while playing and kind of coming to LA on my off weeks and, being a part of the tour and playing on the tour and then, bringing that content onto the commentating scene. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways doing something that's kind of trend-setting what a lot of people are starting to do now. But did you plan, because you still played for a few more years after that, did you plan on this transition? I mean, it seems like it's gone really smooth, but did you plan on it kind of going the way it has? Were there some surprises in there and just the transition from playing and then now being a full-time broadcaster?
Yeah, no, I didn't really plan on it. I mean, it all kind of happened during COVID and was practicing one day and good buddy of mine, Andy Roddick, had reached out and this is how Tennis Channel kind of came about. Said he spoke in and to Tennis Channel and then it kind of went from there. And next thing you know, the tour came back and I was full on playing and I knew I wanted to play for at least another 2-3 years, see how it was going and then I started basically going to LA on all my off weeks. So didn't really spend any time at home in Austin.
Yeah.
And it was coming to LA and it's fun. It's so much fun for me to kind of bring the stories of what's happening with the players, especially when I was playing, being in the locker room with them. And now on the coaching side of things, still in the locker room with the players and around it all the time. And being able to kind of, bring that inside knowledge into the game.
Yeah, I definitely want to get to the coaching later in the show, but there was part of that too. You're one of the people I've noticed, you maximize all the hours in a day. Because when's the workout time normally, like 6 a.m. or so?
Yeah, I mean, I got to get the workout at 6 or 7. That's how I get my day started. I got to get the blood flowing, the endorphins going, and then I feel like we can get the day started. So, I feel like, yeah, I mean, you kind of want to leave no stone unturned. So you want to make sure you get the workout in and then get to work after as well.
Well, I want to ask you too, every year when we do this, like on the heels or relatively on the heels of Australia, that experience, because I think it's such a great setup that you guys have there of calling matches courtside and really, even as broadcasters and insiders and expert level knowledge, just physically being that close to where the players are. What were some of the experiences, things you learned and things you covered at this Australian Open being in that courtside role?
Yeah, look, I mean, I what's really cool there is doing the court side for the center court matches on Rod Laver, so a lot of times I was kind of sitting center court side right next to where the guys were running and just seeing, again, I know the speed at what the ball's coming at, but watching Zverev and Tommy Paul go at it and how hot it was, court side and seeing, these guys running and just being athletes and again, it's just as you said, being there at each stadium, being able to feel the atmosphere. It's probably my favorite Grand Slam of the year. It was always my favorite Grand Slam. But I think it's just, yeah, exactly. Being courtside, I really was just impressed with Zverev. Obviously he made the finals and just the way he was moving and hitting his forehand so well. And obviously, I mean, Yannick Sinner and just being courtside and seeing his movement. So the evolution of the game obviously is one of the things that you can really feel being courtside when you're commentating a match as far as the speed is concerned on the men's side, these guys moving and on the women's side as well. So just the athleticism has been amazing.
And being around there, that tournament at Miami now, for example, you've played yourself, obviously, but things have changed a lot. So in terms of like preparation and how players get ready for matches, what their routines are, what's something that's changed from when you started on tour to now, maybe that you've seen the younger players? It could be bad, but also could be good ways that they've kind of changed from when you were coming onto tour.
Yeah, look, I nowadays, I mean, just before they even hit their first ball, I mean, most players are warming up for almost an hour, right? So even for myself coaching a player on tour, Michael Mmoh, if we're hitting at 10, we're warming up from 9 to 10, right? So it's kind of just stretching and then a dynamic warm up and on the bike and everything. So really the preparation that it takes before you even hit your first ball, right? It's not like you show up 15 minutes before and get moving because when you're younger, you can kind of just walk on the court and you're
Yeah,
like, all right, let's go. But even now, even when people are younger, I mean, the top pros, you see some of these top pros that are younger, they're still taking that 45 minutes to an hour before hitting the first ball. So a lot of it is that. And then also at the end of the day, I mean, you just see at the end of the day, there's now you got your massage, your stretching, and then a little bit of yoga as well. Some players do. So it's a full-time job as it
yeah,
kind of always has been, but you really see it just down
yeah,
to a science because
yeah.
players realize that they can
Uh-huh.
play longer in their career if they take care of their body.
Yeah, I think it was Taylor Fritz a few years ago was in a late press conference after a long match and said something along the lines of like, "I still have 2 hours of work left to do." I think that
Yeah.
was the one that stood out because really it's eye opening to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, look, players basically, if they practicing for 2 hours or 3 hours, they spend that same amount of time on their body after the practice, right? And that's what a lot of physios will tell the coach or tell their player, like, hey, okay, if you're gonna be on the court 3 hours, then
Yeah,
I want 3 hours as
right.
well, stretching, massage, taking care of the body to be ready for the next day. And I think
Yeah.
that's what helps prolong your career over the course of time.
And I know you're well connected in the athletic community, friends from other sports, other endeavors. It's got to be interesting to explain to them that okay, my sport, there's times when you just don't know when you're going to play. Like
Oh yeah.
imagine in your sport if the NFL game didn't start till 1 or 3:30 or so.
Yeah, it's just crazy because even experiencing it, let's say yesterday with my player Michael Mmoh, and before he was going to go on, right? There was a match that was a set and 5-4, and then all of a sudden it looked like it was going to split set. So we weren't sure if we just start warming up or begin to warm up, and then all of a sudden you're kind of in between, and then all of a sudden the match is over, and you're only in the middle of your warm up before getting ready to go on, just because you're not really sure when you're going on. So it's always nice if you do know. I mean, I think a lot of players love having kind of that first on match, to be honest. That
Yeah,
11 a.m. or 12,
yeah,
because you know exactly when you're going to go on. You can prepare properly.
yeah.
But it's something that players we know, and the players know that hey, you just have to adjust and you have to be ready to go when the time is called.
Yeah, that was the Ivan Lendl story. He loved first on, so he can just kill his opponent early round, then go golf all day.
They go
So it's
golf all
like
day.
just go.
Yeah.
Well, and Indian Wells is probably one of the areas where he was able to do that. But with the dust settling in that tournament, Nick, we recapped it a couple days ago. But I was thinking about this as the dust settled, that this could be one of those tournaments we look back on as, transcendent. And I guess time will tell, but having a player like Draper on the men's side assert himself into the conversation at the top of the game and having Mirra Andreeva win her back-to-back title, really vault herself onto the national scene, I do think that this could be one of those transcendent tournaments where we look back and think, wow, this was the start of something special for one or two players.
For sure, and I think a player like Jack Draper learned a lot about himself. I think he had the belief because he was coming in with confidence in the Indian Wells, but I think he also, we saw that he can last longer in matches. We saw that his body didn't break down. We've seen cramping issues in the past from him, and we were on the court with him before the tournament started. So 3 days before, practicing with him, and we were like, man, his ball was jumping off of his racket so quickly and jumping off the court. And with my player, he was like, man, I practiced with him before and never really felt that before. So he really felt like he's gotten stronger physically. He's hitting the ball harder with more spin, so it's jumping off the court even more. Just even down the middle of the court, we could feel the pace of his ball. And had somebody told me, okay, this player's ready to win Indian Wells, because obviously there's Alcaraz and some other high ranked guys at the time, I would have said, well, he's going to have a great tournament. I'm not sure if he's ready to win the tournament, but
Yeah.
the confidence just grew for him, and he's such a great player, and it's just the beginning. And as you said, and for Mirra Andreeva, I mean, to see her kind of with her notebook that day, and,
Yeah.
and and see really, her professionalism, right, and having each player down and what they do well, what they don't do well, and studying each player, right. And I think that's what a lot of players do, but to be able to see her on the changeover, reading it and digesting it in the moment is something that really players should take into account and do more often.
Yeah, weirdly, I think, and we all know about the gifts, the tools that she has, but it's maybe more impressive or just as impressive that she was
Yeah,
able to win those matches in 3 sets.
yeah.
Iga getting pushed back in the second and dropping the first to Sabalenka. It's not like, point being, it wasn't all gravy the whole time. She had to earn it even as well as she played.
Yeah, she had to earn it, and also just the maturity, right? To
Hmm.
see, because we had seen, let's say, in the past where she would get on herself and get upset. I mean, she's still so young, so you
Yeah.
can understand that. And but now the maturity for Mira to, to just trust her work, trust what she's put into it, and obviously has a great coach in Conchita Martinez who has her focused
Hmm.
on the process. And she mentioned the things about Roger and Rafa being able to be relaxed, like
Yeah.
Roger and had the fight at Rafa and everything, and the way she can think about that in the moment, and we're only going to see more and more of her.
Well, another player I know well, played doubles with, who made the final was Holger Rune, and he had a
Yeah,
tough go in the final certainly, but
yeah,
the run itself to get there was very impressive. Started with that comeback win over Ugo Humbert, finds a way past Griekspoor, who is playing very well, and then beats Daniil Medvedev in the semis. So I
yeah.
know there's bad taste in your mouth when you lose any match the way you did in the final for Holger, but I think this could be, depending on how it goes from here, the start of him finding a spark that he desperately needed.
Yeah, look, I've always been kind of everyone's been, well, where's Holger? What's he doing?
Yeah.
What's going on with him? And I have that story from when we played doubles in Adelaide a couple years ago, and he was ranked in the 80s, and he had lost a 3-set match. We went and played doubles a couple hours later. We finished at 8:30 at night after winning 10-8 in the tiebreaker. We finished late at night. We're on the bike at 8:30, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go hit some more balls?" And I'm thinking, man, you played a 3-hour singles match. Now we played almost a 2-hour doubles match, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take it easy. We play again tomorrow. I'm gonna just recover, stretch, everything. And he looked at his coach Lars, who's been his coach, longtime coach from a kid on, and he went back out and started hitting balls with Lars and hit till 11 p.m. So he went out and hit another 2 hours that night. And so when you have a work ethic like that, it's going to turn around for you. And I think that when he got to four in the world, he was with Lars from as a kid all the way to four in the world, and then changed to Patrick and Kenneth Carlson, and now he's back with Lars. So I think that's all he's needed, is to be back with a
Yeah.
coach that knows him well, that got him to four in the world. And so for my mind, when they got back together end of last year, I said, okay, it's going to take 6 months, and then he's going to be right back to where he needs to be. And he's already right back to where he needs to be. Like it's because sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get kind of the coaching out of your head from the other coaches and get back to maybe Lars and what he's trying to help you with. But I feel like he's already gotten back to it. His confidence is there, and man, we're going to see him climb quickly.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And I never really thought of it like that, but you say there's an unlearning process when you
Yeah.
switch coaches, which is real, but also, I guess if you're going back to someone you don't really need to learn new things as much.
Yeah, and then you have the confidence
Yeah.
he has that confidence with
Hmm.
Lars, and Lars
Hmm.
knows him since a little kid, right? And he
Hmm.
knows how he ticks and what he needs in an important moment.
Yeah.
And I also think we saw Holger be more relaxed in bigger moments, right? And not get as hard on himself or blow
Yeah.
up to the coaching box. Like we saw a relaxed Holger Rune, and I
They
think
did.
that helped him as well, because in the past we've seen cramping issues with Holger, and that's been from nerves, that's been from tightness. We talk a lot as far as how to help prevent the cramping. So I've sent him some solutions, and I think he's starting to find his way to be able to last longer in matches, and also mentally being able to focus. And now, as you said, have that unlearning from the prior coaches to get back to what Lars wants him to do.
I can't wait to see it. Again, we've got, an opportunity here. Sinner's on the shelf with the suspension. Alcaraz is in the mix at the top, certainly, but players are stepping up. Jack Draper, Holger Rune. We'll
Yeah.
see. It's fun. It's a fun times for men's tennis. Nick
Yeah.
Monroe here on the Inside In Tennis podcast. Well, we have to talk about it because the biggest story today was that the PTPA decided that they're
Mhm.
going to, go after legal action, filing a lawsuit against the ITF, against the WTA, against the ATP. Going after a couple different things. A lot of players on that list. Pospisil heads the list, but you saw names like Kyrgios, Opelka, Sangren, Sorana Cirstea, to name a few. And essentially, Nick, to summarize as best I can, as briefly as I can, talking about the scheduling, the rankings, prize money, the willingness to compete outside events at exhibitions, what's been limited. So I know there's a lot there, and this is just step one of a messy process, but this is, swift action. This is players that are deciding that they want to pursue legal action for perceived injustice What was your reaction when the announcement came that, okay, this is a lawsuit now and it's going to be presented as such and could get messy?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, the players have just always wanted a voice, right? And I
Hmm.
think this is really helpful to the players who maybe haven't been able to sit at the table with the top of the PTPA and understand where they're going with certain things, but know that they're searching for a voice for them. But I think it's a win for the players to know that this is happening. Whether something gets done, we'll wait to see. But of course, when you look at revenue share from the NBA and it's 50%, 51%, and then, Grand Slams for tennis is 17, 18%, you're thinking, wow, like that's just a huge difference. What do we need to do to change that?
Hmm.
And you feel like nothing's really ever going to be changed unless something like this happens, right? And yeah, we'll just see how long the process goes. But I think a lot of the players were there here in Miami when I was speaking to them. They were like, well, we're happy that this is happening, and but we'll just have to see what happens, right? And so there's a lot, as you said, with scheduling, prize money, all that. There's a lot there, and we'll just see what happens. But I think the players are happy that something's getting done.
Yeah, and I think there's layers to it, and even just looking at it once over, you can see parts. I think most rational people will be like, okay, that's a really fair point. That might be a stretch. We'll see. There's a lot in there, and I think, the one area that I was looking at, Nick, and you know this, it's a unique sport in a lot of ways, but the ranking system as it pertains to the season being long, if you don't play all these events, your ranking and your livelihood can suffer. So
Mhm.
with that compiled with the revenue share that you just mentioned, I can certainly see the player's point of view. Like, look, not only are we not getting the revenue of other sports, but we have to play or
Yeah.
our ranking and everything suffers. So I totally get that regard.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I was one of those guys that played 30 to 35 weeks a year, and for people who don't know, in tennis, they take your top 18 events. That's how you get your ranking, and you get points each round that you win. So, sure, I had to play more weeks because maybe there was a stretch where I lost six first rounds in a row, right? So you need to keep playing to get that. And so then it helps maybe some of the players, maybe like myself, that needed some extra weeks to get the ranking up some years. But by the same token, for players who maybe don't need that and can win enough matches and be able to try to stop earlier. Yeah, exactly. I think
Mhm.
they would like to have more of an off season. If you look at other sports, they have 4 months of an off season. We have maybe a month, right?
Mhm.
Because now a lot of the tournaments are going until mid-November. Then you basically have a couple weeks off, and then you got to start training in December to get ready for January. So it's like, where's the downtime
Yeah.
mentally, physically for these players to be able to get better physically and mentally, and then to be able to play better for the next year. So I think you will have a better product as well if players come back and they've had more off time to prepare training wise, mentally, and then they're going to become better players and become better tennis players when they come back as well.
Yeah. And saying like, oh, you could take time off even if you're one of the top players. Well, the other players aren't taking time off. So then you're falling behind them. And then it's,
Exactly. I mean, I was one of those who hated knowing that somebody else was practicing or playing a tournament or whatever. So I'm like, okay, I need to go play that tournament because I want to keep my
yeah.
ranking where it needs to be, right? And all the players want to stay in the Grand Slam level, get in the Masters 1000. So the schedule makes you have to play week after week after week to keep your ranking there. So I agree with that,
Mhm.
being able to somehow shorten the schedule so that you don't have to play as much.
Right. It's like, it sounds like you might be one of the guys that when you go to the gym, see someone else on the treadmill, like, I can't let this person outwork me.
If they're running sprints, then I got to run sprints. If they're
Yeah.
jumping rope, I got to jump rope.
Yeah. Okay.
I always say the weight's not going to move itself. We got to move
Yeah.
it. But yeah, if I see someone else doing
I
it, it
gotcha.
motivates me even more.
I gotcha. Well, our own tennis channel's own Mark Petchy said it could be the fuse that starts something. I think that's a great metaphor to just be the
Right.
first step in a lot of steps. And really, the last side of this too, Novak Djokovic's name was not in the lawsuit, was not on the lawsuit. He is, one of the founding members of the PTPA. But in reading the rationale as to why that is, I got to give him the benefit of the doubt here and understand it. If he puts his name on there, Nick, then it's about the most accomplished player of all time against these organizations. So I think it puts more light where it needs to be, him not being on there.
Yeah, I mean, look, exactly. And he puts more light where it needs to be. Look, it's kind of like, look, Vasek started it with Novak, so he's on there along
Mhm.
with the other players you mentioned, Kyrgios, Kristeya, Opelka. A lot of these players, I guess, they have the voice for everyone else, right? And we
Yeah.
know Novak is somewhere behind, and he's definitely behind it. But I think, as you said, it just puts more light on what actually needs to be done than the player.
We'll see where this goes. Props again to the players fighting for what they believe in, and we'll see where this goes. So this is step one as we move along here on the Inside In Tennis podcast. Nick, I got to ask you about second serve though, because we talked about it, I think, the last time, but it's really
Yeah.
been, taken off, and really to see this show kind of find its path, find its voice in a lot of ways. The comfort level. Jeff Chisover hosting the show along with yourself, and then you've had a lot of great guests that have kind of served in there. We've seen Tracy Austin, Jason Goodall, Jan Michael Gamble,
Yeah.
to name a few, Coco Vandeweghe. So
Yeah.
there's been a lot of great voices on that show, but this was a show started, and I think you described it as Manning Cast meets Red Zone. How has
Yeah.
it been to, be on this show, talk to these players, cover tennis in a different way that we don't really see with traditional broadcast?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's what's so great about Second Serve is that, we're watching tennis while having a podcast in a way, question and answer, and also the post-match interviews that we're getting from tournaments, right? And, like, let's say for Indian Wells, we're getting to get post-match interviews from players on court 7, 8, 9, maybe players that people haven't heard from, right? It's not always the top 10, top 20 players. So, last in Indian Wells, Sarana Kirstea, Zizou Bergs, players like that are unbelievable players in the top 100 and getting to feel their personality. So that's the cool part of it is every player being heard. And then also as far as the guests are concerned, having we had Reggie Bush on as an athlete, Yvonne Orji as an actress, and the list kind of goes on with NFL Danny Amendola. So people that love tennis and are able to kind of speak to what they love about it, but then also kind of their mentality and what drove them to be successful, and maybe how that can help in tennis and any other journey. And I think that that's what's so cool is just being able to mix different sports, different genres, actors, actresses, other professional athletes, along with the tennis. And it's just bringing different voices and different people to the game.
Yeah, I love seeing the outside perspective of athletes, people that work in entertainment, and people that just love tennis. When you had Wolfgang Puck in studio too, it's like this guy just loves
Yeah.
tennis. And
Wolfgang, he just loves tennis. He came in wearing his Fila gear from Indian Wells and literally plays every day. He was a little injured at that time when we had him at studio, but he's like, I'll be back on court in a couple of weeks. And but exactly, I mean, it's people like him, Wolfgang, who's the best in the business at what he does, and just literally loves the sport, but was able to bring his mentality and his drive to what made him successful into what can help in tennis, right? And what he said was loving what you do. You need to love what you do, and that's what gave him so much passion for food. And in tennis, he loves it so much that he wants to be out there every day as well. So I think everyone has to find that love in what they do, and then you can be successful.
yeah, and he wasn't really sensitive to beginners in the culinary arts, right? Like if you ask for advice, he's just going to say no,
Yeah.
lost cause.
Yeah. As for advice, it was kind of lost cause. He's like, you can just come to my restaurant. I'll take care of you. So I was like, hey man, I'll be there tomorrow.
I do think the players side of it too is great because
Yeah.
they're on for long stretches of time, and you're really getting players to open
Right.
up. Look, there's a lot of players, and you know this, right? You're used to the press conferences, the sound bites, which can be monotonous. They're short, and they're
Yeah.
things you have to ask about. Like as a journalist, you have to ask about the match and what went on out
Yeah.
there. But you can get them to open up a little bit in a 20, 25-minute setting that's away from all that.
Yeah, I mean, look, this week in Miami, we're going to have Dustin Brown. Can't wait to talk about his story, how he rode in a camper through futures and challengers, drove all over Europe, and now as a family. But he beat Rafa at Wimbledon, and we're also going to have Diego Schwartzman, Shelby Rogers, who's now doing mentoring for the WTA. And we're just going to mix it up so much with different players and what they're doing now, and toast to their career, Nicholas Lapinti as well. So it's just fun to again talk to the players and, as you said, actually hear their story as opposed to just kind of how their match was that day. So we can really deep dive, and that's what Second Serve is about, is giving voices to all the players, no matter what the ranking, and really diving into it. And also what's special to my heart, speaking to a lot of the doubles players,
Yeah.
and we're gonna have Asia Muhammad on this year or this week, and she just won in Indian Wells, and moving up the doubles ranking so
Yeah.
fast now, and so yeah, it's just a lot of fun to give the voices and the stories.
That was really cool to see her win that and see how emotional it was. Like it shows you that, like, a breakthrough is important at all levels. And when you had,
Hmm.
Evan King and Christian
And
Harrison
Chris
on, who are
Harrison.
just killing it this year too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
exactly. And it was funny for Evan King, he's like, man, I made it. I'm on Tennis Channel, Mom. Like, this is amazing.
yeah,
When we had them on the first time from Del
yeah.
Rey, and they're absolutely killing it by, qualifying at Dallas and Acapulco, winning both of those 500s, finaling Del Rey. You know, I mean, they're literally just doing it. Finals. They're in Indian Wells, so they're on a stretch, and these are people that Christian Evan, who had never been on, let's say, TV before, and have those kind of interviews, and so it's just great to have their stories, and yeah, those guys are killing it.
Well, you're on site at Miami, where you'll be on for second serve Wednesday to
Yeah.
Monday through Monday, so it'll be fun there. The Miami Open and being on the grounds too. I also kind of feel like the players are just in great moods. Like this, Indian Wells to Miami. It's just maybe the happiest the tour will be.
I think it is. I mean, Indian Wells, it's like you have that little grass area where the fans can kind of be next to the players when they're warming up. You can kind of get that kind of home feeling. Here in Miami, the stadium court is in the center of the Hard Rock Stadium where the Dolphins play. And then around that stadium court, there's a warm up kind of grassy area for a lot of the players. And, just today, Novak Djokovic and Andy Murray and the team, they were playing soccer in that little area. There's two soccer goals, and everyone was kind of watching them play, and they were having a great time there. And then there's warm up bikes literally right next to that soccer field. So players were warming up, but watching Novak and Andy play soccer. Then next to that soccer field, there's basically some couches where players can kind of relax and take a nap, and has, kind of an awning over it. So it's really like kind of a happy, relaxed area to warm up, play some
Yeah.
soccer, hang out. And as you said, I mean, it's Miami. The weather's amazing, and the players are absolutely loving it. James Blake does a great job here, being
Hmm.
tournament director, making sure all the players are taken care of, and anything they need, they know they
Hmm.
can shoot them a quick text. And and also the food. I mean, I think that's one thing a lot of the players have been talking about. The food's been amazing. There's as there is normally, a sushi bar, pasta
Hmm.
station, salad bar, kind of a hot bar with chicken, fish,
Yeah.
vegetables, and then there's also kind of a poke bar as well. So the players have
Yeah.
really been talking about the quality of the food has been really good here in Miami. So I think just everything kind of matches up well here for the players.
Yeah, we'll have to start doing our food rankings for tournaments on a scale from like maybe
I
Acapulco to Miami or something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that. But I do know
Yeah.
on the men's side, Shanghai, the 1,000 in
Okay. Yeah.
Shanghai, they said that's the best.
Okay.
I mean, I played it a couple times. It was by far the best food
Mhm.
that there is, and they have a couple chefs from Nobu there, kind of cooking up everything. But yeah,
Okay.
we should do a
All right.
ranking system for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, watch out, Shanghai. Miami's on your heels.
Hey, exactly.
Well, one of the big storyline whenever he plays an event, you mentioned him, Novak Djokovic. He's in Miami. There was maybe a little doubt about what his schedule would look like. He's playing. It's been, an abnormally long time for him, Nick, since he's had a big result. And we go into this tournament wondering if he needs it, if he's going to play well. How would you assess based on a poor performance by his standards, losing to Bodic at Indian Wells, where he's at as we head into the second leg of the Sunshine Double?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no. Everyone needs matches, right?
Mhm.
And you gain confidence from that. And obviously, he's a goat. He is the goat, right? Has the most of everything, titles, slams, you name it. But I think I think he's in search of matches, right? I mean, but
Mhm.
if he gets one or two under his belt, watch out, right? Because he's been there, done that. But it's when Bodic was able to kind of take it to him there at Indian Wells, we kind of thought
Yeah.
Novak would be able to turn it around because that's what he does. But
Yeah.
seeing just kind of the uneasiness from him on court, and looking over the box and kind of chirping, which he's done in the past, but yeah, also players haven't been scared of Novak now when they
Right.
walk on the court, and they feel like they have a chance. And I think that's really
Mhm.
been a big thing for the players. No matter who's playing Novak now, they walk out there going, "Hey, I got a chance." And also, if they start hearing him chirp, they're like, "All right, well, we have even more of a chance." And so, really, players are going in with more confidence. And I'm sure he knows that. But by the same token, watch out once he wins a match or two, his confidence will come right back. So he is Novak Djokovic.
Yeah, and there, he is that. Everyone needs matches, as you say. Looking at who he could play, could be Alex Mickelson early, which would be
Hmm.
something.
Yeah.
Medvedev section two. Medvedev kind of found a little of his game, but still, no finals in over a year. And that stat, it keeps blowing my mind. The only player in the top 30 that hasn't made a final in the last year. So if it is a Medvedev Djokovic showdown, we'll have to see. But whether it's Mickelson or kind of segueing Nick into the other Americans, this
Hmm.
feels like another opportunity, similar to Indian Wells, where it didn't quite happen, where there's so many of these guys near that breakthrough area. I feel like
Yeah.
it's inevitable that somebody, now who it is, we'll see, but one of these guys, whether it's Taylor, Tommy, Ben, the three, and then Francis, of course, one of these three might be able to break through at this event.
I think so. I mean, look, the way that court's playing, it's playing very fast, and I think that for a player like Ben, he likes it fast. Obviously, with his big
Hmm.
serve, and he comes forward a lot. So I think this surface plays well for a player that plays more aggressive and looks to come
Hmm.
in and take advantage of opportunities like that, because the court will really do some work for you. So that being said, I mean, Taylor Fritz has got a big serve. He looks to play big. Tommy Paul has the variety. Been looking to come in more, and he's just so
Hmm.
talented to begin with. Ben, with his big serve and coming forward, is good. I think interesting watching some of the matches. The surface, it doesn't help a player that kind of likes to stay back and be further behind the baseline, because the ball just gets on them quickly, right? So if you're
Hmm.
able to play a bit more first strike and take some chances and hit through the court, that this is really a surface that does that for you. And you just the
Yeah.
names that you named there. Alex Mickelson does that too. He hits big. He serves big. So as you said, this could be a big breakthrough for any of those
Yeah,
guys.
the Americans, a lot of them
Yeah.
you mentioned. Seems like Ben's a little happier now. I don't know what it is. He's just a
Yeah.
little happier. I don't know.
Seems like something happened in his life. I
Just,
think he's a
just,
little happier.
just
Maybe a
happy.
girlfriend, or maybe just good tennis, one or the other.
Just happy. But yeah, I mean the transition too, like you brought up, you played these events, like what these courts are like. Like this is not a normal transition to go from Indian Wells to Miami. It plays right like so different.
Yeah, completely different, you still, the ball's not getting nearly as big as it was in Indian Wells. The surface is quicker, especially on grandstand and some of the outer courts. It's been pretty windy over the last few days too, so it's getting used to that, and just having the right mentality once it comes to the wind, maybe
Mhm.
having to bring in your target. So, really it's adjusting to what it is. But the last few days have been very windy,
Mhm.
but the surface is quick. So, I think a lot of players are realizing, like, hey,
Yeah.
we don't want to get on defense early on in points. We want to stay in control and be looking to move forward.
We could see Draper and Holger meet early. I think it's
Yeah.
round four is where they're showing down. I think, I mean, a guy like Alcaraz can adjust to any scenario. We'll see where
Yes.
he plays. And Sasha Zverev, right? Like hasn't
Hmm.
had the results, still at the top seed at this point. But, can he find a way? He's made the final here before. We know his game can be playing well here. So I'm excited to see how the men's draw and the men's bracket shapes up. For the women, similar thoughts, right, on the U.S. front, Nick. Like, there's a lot of American women that I think have an opportunity here. I looked at Coco Gauff's draw, and I think this could be a chance for her. Although I say that, and then she plays Kenin in the first round, which is a tricky opponent. But maybe start the ground running, I guess.
Yeah, start the round running, right? And I remember, was that a couple years ago when they played at Wimbledon, and I believe that was
Yeah.
first round.
Mhm.
And on a faster surface, being grass, and Kenin hits through the court, right? And these courts really bode well for somebody like a Kenin who hits through the
Mhm.
courts. So I think she's going to be, as we know, Coco's forehand is maybe the weaker side. So I feel like Kenin's really going to be trying to dictate in there. So this is going to be a tricky opponent for Coco in the first round. I mean, I always say the first round of any tournament is always the toughest, because it doesn't matter
Yeah.
how well you're practicing, the nerves start to come in. And when the nerves start to come in, especially on a fast court, it's kind of hard to get over that if the mentality isn't an
Yeah.
aggressive mentality to begin with going into a match. So it'll be interesting to see how aggressive Coco is in that
Mhm.
match, and if she looks to come forward maybe more than she normally does. But Kenin will be
Yeah.
coming in with confidence, right? Just beating
Mhm.
Petra Kvitova. And yeah, she definitely looks like she's healthy and playing well.
If she can minimize the issues on the serve that reared back up again in
Hmm.
Indian Wells, that's huge for Coco. We know when she gets confidence and everyone gets behind her, it's a big thing. In that section, too, a player that survived today was Naomi Osaka. She finds a way
Yeah,
through. And look, it wasn't pretty, but at the end of the
doesn't
day,
have
it's
to be.
about
Yeah.
just getting that handshake at the net with your name there. And coming off of Indian Wells, it was big. It was huge for her to get this win, right? Because,
Mhm.
again, in that section, has a chance to maybe right the ship a little bit. Just surviving today was all she needed to do.
Yeah, that's all she needed to do. I mean, she was down a set, and I think she went up a break early in the second, and then came back and won, as
Mhm.
we know. But look, I think it. the first round, and even any round, but especially the first, doesn't have to be pretty. You aren't going to play 100%. You should be happy if you're playing 40% and just find a way to win with your heart and your grit. And that's what she was able to do, was just find a way to turn the tables. And no one really cares at the end what the score was. All they know, is Naomi Osaka won and she's able to move on. And you better believe in the locker room, they're like, oh man, this is, if Naomi gets hot here on these fast courts, watch out, because she can hit through the court, as we know.
So we know Danielle Collins won the tournament last year. We have, Madison Keys and Jessica Pegula for Americans looking for a result. Sabalenka seems like she goes deep in all these tournaments. Andreeva is, the next big
Yeah.
thing rising up. So with those names out there, how do you see, who do you see shining at this
Jeez.
event? Like, I know it's tough to say and predict, but as far as just playing well of the names I mentioned, who do you think could stand out and make runs?
I mean, Sabalenka, as we know, she lost in the finals to Andreeva, and I feel like these courts really suit well for her because she's going to hit the ball so big. And as you mentioned, Danielle Collins winning last year, and the reason she was able to is because she also takes the ball early and really takes it to you. But for this year, yeah, I mean, I'd see a Sabalenka big run. Andreeva's coming in with a lot of confidence, but for me, I think if I'm going to pick a winner, I would say it's going to be Sabalenka, just because I feel like, especially after losing to Andreeva. I mean, she kind of mentioned it too in her post match interview that, like, oh, watch out, you beat me now, like, pretty much I'm coming for you, which is what she did against Madison Keys in the
Yeah.
semis, right after losing to Madison in the finals of Australian Open, and then taking it to her, winning 0-1 in the semis. I think she wants to prove a point that I'm the best, and I'm going to
Uh-huh.
show you. You might have gotten me in Indian Wells, but now I'm in. And these courts just really
Yeah.
suit her game. Again,
Yeah.
because she plays so big and this ball is going to be moving quickly, I think it helps her.
Yeah, she was out for blood in that Keys match. That was a possessed one. She's smiling nice, but when she's on the court, she's a killer. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it does suit her game too. Also, Iga Swiatek's won this tournament before. Maybe
Hmm.
not in the best space. She posted about where she's
Right.
at, and is a very transparent athlete, which I expect and which I respect, I should say. So we'll see if she finds rhythm too. She's a very rhythm based player. So if a player, and it's not easy, right? If they find a way to disrupt that, like Andreeva did, then they'll have success. But when Iga's playing downhill, she's as good, if not better, than everyone.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, he's a great returner, big
Hmm.
forehand. So again, everyone's kind of looking for that form, and I think Iga's still looking for her form, right? And
Hmm.
and she wants to be winning a title again and get that confidence back.
Hmm.
And I think she's starting to find it. She's starting to find it. But again, for me, it's going to be the most aggressive player. Whoever's
Hmm.
the most aggressive out of the women over the course of the 2 out of 3 sets for an entire 12 days. I mean, that's who's going to win this tournament. So you got to bring it.
Hmm. And picking Sabalenka in that regard is a smart move if
That's
it's the
why.
most aggressive.
That's why.
Well, lastly, Nick Monroe, you've been great with your time. I just wanted to ask you, you've been coaching as well, working with Michael Mmoh right now. I know you've helped a couple other players as well behind the scenes and also on the practice courts, but Michael Mmoh is a friend of yours. You've been helping him on his path, and you said before we started he's healthy and fit and trying to get back up the ranks. But what's that experience like helping him and watching him have some breakthroughs on this path?
No, it's great. I mean, look, we've been friends for such a long time, and then now to be on the coaching bag for him. I mean, he's such a hard worker, so coachable, and that's all you can ask for as a coach, is someone who's willing to listen, learn, and want to get better and get better at their craft day in and day out, right? Not kind of have one day where you give 100% and the next day where it's 50%. Really, truly wanting to get better. And look, he's the same age as Tiafo, Tommy Paul, Andre Rublev, Opelka, all those guys. And he's beaten those guys. I mean, he's beaten Alex Zverev, he's beaten Hurkacz in the last couple of years, those big names. So he knows he's ready for it. It's just staying healthy, and he's just so coachable and fun to be around. And one thing about me is, I wasn't the most talented guy and whatnot, but I love being on the court. I love putting in the hours. So when I have a player like that
Yeah,
who also enjoys the process, that makes it that much more fun. And he definitely
yeah.
enjoys the process. So it's a great time.
It's awesome to hear. And I just want to know, did you see yourself becoming a coach? Was this, just something that organically happened? Or were you one of the players that was like, I could see myself doing this?
Yeah, it's funny because people ask me if I miss playing, and I honestly tell them I don't miss playing, and they're like, "Wait a second, you don't miss playing? Like, you were on the practice court all the time, and you love." And I'm like, "Yeah, I loved it when I was playing, but what I felt is I left no stone unturned. So once I finished, I knew I gave everything that I had, and now I love the giving back side of it. I love
Yeah.
coaching. I love trying to help someone else get to where they want to go, and do that through coaching and hopefully in commentating, people
Mhm.
listening and learning something from me. So really, my mindset has changed to, again, as a player, it's all about you, but now
Yeah.
it's not all about me. It's about helping other people get to where they want to go, and so that's really a big passion of mine now, and something that I'm extremely passionate about.
It's awesome. And you still have stakes in the game, right? When you're on the bag, you
Yeah.
still have that competitive juice still
Oh,
flows.
I know, I know. No, I'll definitely be out there hitting some balls
Yeah.
tomorrow morning with
Yeah.
Nate Lamons, top
Yeah.
20 doubles player. I love getting out there and hitting balls and giving my 2 cents of how to help. But yeah, the coaching side of it is
Yeah.
just such a true journey for me, and I love it.
Well, Nick Monroe, this was a pleasure. Thanks so much, man, for being on the show, being a great guest. Second serve is Wednesday to Monday, right? 3 to 8 Eastern on
Yes.
Tennis Channel 2.
Yep.
So it'll be, and you can kind of correct me here, but the crew is yourself. It's Jeff Chisver, who are the other guests on the show, or the other panelists
And
this
then
week.
and then we've got Tracy Austin and Jimmy Arias as well.
Awesome.
So
Oh, that's
they'll be
awesome.
they'll be in LA, and I'll be here in
Yeah.
Miami. And as I
Yeah.
said, we've got Dustin Brown, Shelby
Yeah.
Rogers. We're gonna have one of the
Yeah.
stringers from the tournament come up and speak to me and talk about all the tensions and different string patterns that a lot of the players are using, which is always fun. Diego Schwartzman's going to join me as well. As we know, just retired, and I love Diego Lito. He's going to give his path and his journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, just going to be a lot of fun and a lot of great guests. And you know, just tell the stories that we're extremely passionate about.
We might need a cough button on Jimmy, maybe like 5 seconds or so. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the stories are going to be amazing for
Yeah,
Jimmy.
it's going to be great. Nick Monroe, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for making time. Make sure everyone out there catches Second Serve at Nick. Thanks for coming on the Inside In Tennis podcast.
I appreciate you, Mitch. Of course, we're going to do it again. You're the man.
That was Nick Monroe. This was the Inside In Tennis podcast. We're on all your platforms. Go to Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Amazon Music to download the episode where you can subscribe, leave a review, and make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mitch Michals to watch all the video episodes as well. We're back next week. More Miami Open talk, more interviews with players and commentators and coaches that give the sport life. For Nick Monroe, I'm Mitch Michals. This was the Inside In Tennis podcast. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.